We are back and better than ever. Back and better than ever. My name is Andrew Kulha, Evan Massey, Anthony Moeglin. Evan, we actually bumped you up to the middle for this show. So it's a big deal.
I see that. Promotions. I like it.
Yeah.
Does that mean it's a demotion? Does that mean it's a demotion for me, Andrew? What's that about?
Well, a little behind the scenes, I believe it was last week, we were talking about when in your playing days when you got crushed by some guy over at when you were playing for John Carroll. So I figured I'd move you down a spot.
That's fair. And you guys are coming off everybody on this show, everybody watching this show, coming off of one heck of a Sunday night game. So it's only fair that we bump Evan over before we talk Packers here.
Yep, absolutely. What a big game, guys. And there's so much to get into, so let's not dilly-dally too much. The Packers beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 35-25. One Aaron Rodgers, Esquire Jr., quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He spent 18 seasons with the Green Bay Packers, won a Super Bowl, 4 MVPs. And, man, he was on the other team on Sunday night, and that was weird. There's a lot of emotions throughout the week, a lot of emotions in that game, really. Evan, let's start with you, and then we'll go to Anthony. I just want to get an initial reaction to what that was like, and then we'll kind of take it from there.
Man, it was really weird. It was like, watching my late teenage years and 20s and going against him. It felt wrong, man. Like I'm sitting there like, get him, Micah. And then I'm like, no, don't get him, Micah. Don't hurt him. But I mean, you want to win that game, but I did like that he had a good game. Really liked what I saw after the game, him and Jordan Love coming together. And, you heard Rodgers say, love you, bro. There's still a lot of love there. He talked about it a little bit. This wasn't a bad emotional game for him. It wasn't a revenge game. I do believe that. I think he wanted to win. He wanted to beat his old team. But at the same time, he really does have a lot of love for Green Bay. And you could see that pregame when he came out and started talking to a lot of members of the training staff, the nutritionists, stuff like that. It was weird. It's certainly cool seeing him still playing. Hope he's got another year left. But, man, it felt good to beat him.
Anthony, what do you see from your side of things, man?
I'm going to answer your question with a question myself. What did it feel like on that first drive where he broke the pocket to the right and threw one vintage Rodgers 50 yards down the field that they caught, and it was Roman Wilson caught it toe tap, and you're like, uh-oh, he still got it.
Yeah, that was vintage. I think the big takeaway for me last night, there was one quarterback who was clearly better than the other, and that was Jordan Love. And we'll get into Love. I think he deserves his flowers. But Rodgers still had a couple vintage moments. And I think we talked about it through the course of these first couple episodes throughout the season. You turn the game on, you just see him make throws that nobody else can make, still at age 41, almost 42 years old. So there is this part of me thinking, he's saying it's not a revenge game. And I call BS on that immediately. I mean, we all know Aaron Rodgers. This is a guy who's still thinking about getting passed up by the 49ers in that draft. So, I thought we were in for a spanking, and for a while it looked like it.
Yeah, and that was kind of my takeaway too. Like that first quarter or that first half, Andrew, I texted you at halftime. Mm-hmm. Being that I've watched a lot of Steelers games before, I've been on the wrong side of it a lot. And you get into Heinz Field, and like weird stuff starts to happen, right? And there was some, I called it Steelers voodoo, is what I texted you at halftime when it was 16-7, and you're like, all right, the Packers are like kind of like they're hanging in there, but you have 2 missed field goals, just a couple weird mistakes, and then the Steelers just do this thing where like they just let you make mistakes, and then they don't make any mistakes. They make every one of their kicks. Chris Boswell's like the best kicker in football, and they just do things that's winning football. And especially with Aaron Rodgers playing, he hardly turns the ball over. He hardly makes any mistakes. You're like, uh-oh. At 16-7, it felt really odd. Jordan was kind of uncomfortable, and then it was the Tucker Kraft show in that second half, and he kind of took it over there. But, a fun game back and forth, too, just like of the best, like 2 old school football brands going head to head with each other. It was on Sunday Night Football in Heinz Field or Acrisure Stadium. Just so awesome, just from a general football perspective, and then to see Jordan Love go crazy in that second half was pretty awesome to watch.
I want to talk about some real football, and we will. But you just brought this up to the forefront of my brain, Anthony. Talk about 2 football brands. those jerseys.
Horrible. I'm so glad you went there. It's the worst things I've ever seen in my life. They had the chance to be the coolest, like old school Steelers, Packers, best uniforms ever, cold football, end of October, let's go. And then they roll out in those. Those are horrible.
Yeah, those were
ugly. There's a bunch of bumblebees running around, man. It's horrible, man. I mean, come on. What are we doing? I saw a meme today that was fantastic. It's got a picture of Charlie Brown in his shirt that looks just like those jerseys. And I mean, man, come on, NFL, come on, Steelers, be better than that. That's horrible. It reminds me of the Packers old school jerseys where they have the blue and the dark brown. It just, I'm not a fan of it. And
even more so, like this was going to be one of the most watched games of the season because the Aaron Rodgers Packers effect, and like how cool would it have been? Like you could have it was basically the same uniforms as the Super Bowl from 2011. And it could have been all those things, and then they run out, and those were garbage, dude. Those were so bad.
Yeah, those are the jerseys you wear at a noon kickoff. Sometime November.
Against Cleveland is what you wear.
Yeah, against
that's when you wear those ones.
Yeah, they missed an opportunity to have like an all black type. There were so many things they could have done. Let's talk about actual football, and with that, I want to transition to a little bit more substantive talk about the quarterback. So 29 of 37 for 360 yards and 3 touchdowns for our young quarterback, Jordan Love. 24 of 36 for 219 and 2 touchdowns for Aaron Rodgers. The QBR numbers are just insane. Rodgers had a 38.7, below average. Jordan Love with an 89.1. And if you know anything about QBR, 50 is about average. 70, you're looking at, if you can hold up a 70, 80, you're looking at a Pro Bowl season. So we're looking at almost 90 for Love. Evan, let's start with you. I firmly think Mr. Love should be in the NFL MVP conversation. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I mean, we're through 7 games here. I mean, yeah, he should be right now. Is he the front runner? Yeah, he's probably getting there. I think it's too early for that. I think, instead of talking MVP, I just want to talk about a kid that finally put it all together. That was the first game that I've seen him you could just feel the confidence oozing out of him. He's going up against his mentor and a guy that everybody thought would come in and kind of humble him and show him, that he's still better than Jordan Love. Man, he played a complete game from start to finish. It was just pinpoint accuracy. And I'll tell you what, I'm sure we'll get into this more as we go, but part of the reason for that is Christian Watson being back on the field. Yes, Tucker Kraft had a great game, and I'm not going to take anything away from him, but the ability for Watson to stretch the field, I mean, man, it was pulling Pittsburgh out of their defense the entire night, and he made some big plays down the field. But as far as Jordan is concerned, we didn't see that boneheaded mistake. We haven't seen it for 2 weeks now. It's a kid that looks like he's starting to figure it out and put it all together. MVP, yeah, sure. Why not? He's in that conversation right now, but I don't even think we've seen the best of Jordan Love yet because he did have that sluggish first half a little bit. And that's a scary thought for anybody that's playing the Packers.
I would even add to that point too, Evan, is that, he I'm not going to say he was on his own, but the run game wasn't there last night. You have Josh Jacobs, which you're usually leaning on, 13 carries for 33 yards. Emmanuel Wilson led the way, 11 carries for 61. So like just those two combined, you're looking at 94 yards of rush offense in a game where, you get in the second half and you're trailing, and like, hey, when you're trailing like that, you can't totally abandon the game plan. But it's on you. It's on the quarterback to make those big plays, and he showed up in the biggest way, man. With older brother on the other side, that's a lot of pressure, and he answered the call and did it in a major way.
Yeah, what I just loved about what we saw from Love is credit the Steelers. They were able to get some pressure on him, but the one thing we've seen consistently with him this season is now that he's healthy. He can move around in the pocket, man. He can get open. I love when no pun intended, but when Matt LaFleur dials up play action, much like he did for years, much like Aaron Rodgers did for years, much like Brett Favre did for years, you get Love out of the pocket and moving. I mean, that one throw to Christian Watson, speaking of, where he just kind of airmailed it right over the defender and dropped it in a bucket, man. Just love what he's doing out there. And the cool part about it, too, I think, Evan, you're right. We haven't even seen the full totality of what this quarterback can do. He's still a young kid. I think just last week our topic was, hey, he's starting to figure it out. So if he's starting to put these pieces together right now, it's not even Toyota-thon season yet, man. I mean, there's a lot of football left to play.
For sure, man. I mean, the other thing about it is if you watch that first half and the second half, the difference in kind of the playbook that Matt LaFleur was using, he opened it up entirely in the second half. He could tell, hey, we got to get a little more aggressive. And, Jordan Love has been at his best since he's been here as the starter when he's allowed to just make plays. I think it's maybe time. Let's just let the kid go from snap one, and let's let him rock throughout the entire game and see what happens. That's what we need for him to take that next step, and it showed in that second half.
Mm-hmm.
I would add there too that it felt like there was also some confidence that, hey, they can drop back and not be concerned about the Steelers pass rush doing anything. Because I thought up front they were solid. While they weren't running the ball, they were giving Jordan enough time to operate back there. There was obviously that scare with Zach Tom getting stepped on and then almost like looked like knee, looked like ankle. Real scary when they do that little hitch. And he looked like a kind of almost non-contact-ish, but he like popped back up, ran over the sidelines, ran back out. And I'm like, okay, good. But, credit, like you said, Evan, to Matt LaFleur, just opening that thing up. And I think you touched on it, but I think we should get into it. The impact that that Christian Watson makes can't be measured, or it can be measured, because it opens up Tucker Kraft for 7 catches for 143 yards, because you have to respect the deep part of the field, which when he's not on that field, it's a different element, and defenses can really shrink that field down instead of having, like on Sunday night with that threat of Watson going deep.
Anthony, real quick, I want to ask you from a quarterback perspective, is there an element of knowing you've got a guy who's 6'4", with 4, 2 speed, like, hey, I'm just going to chuck it up and let him go, see if he can go get the football?
Yeah, it's calculated risks, but at some point, like, you see those memes that, like, hey, Christian's down there somewhere, or you see a lot with the Bengals, Jamar's down there somewhere, like these quarterbacks just throwing it up because, they have to be calculated, but these guys in the NFL are so good, and they're, and speaking about Christian Watson specifically, he's just so big, and you just give your guy a chance, right? You don't want to throw it into double or triple coverage, but hey, when he is one-on-one with the safety, man, 50-50 balls aren't 50-50 balls. They're 75-25 balls, because if it's not his, it's going to be an incomplete pass at the very least. So, yes, there's absolutely, Andrew, that element of, nothing's open underneath. I got Christian going. I'm going to give him a chance to make a big play.
Evan, what would you say is a realistic expectation over these next couple games here for Love? I don't think we can expect perfect. That's just not reality in the NFL. I imagine he might have a play or two that he's going to want back, but I think what I've seen from him is that he's clearly taken that next step in his development within these past couple games. I mean, he looks like a completely different quarterback to me than the one we saw against the Browns in Week 3.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to focus on next week specifically, one game at a time. But Carolina is going to Lambeau, and, it's actually going to be played on Jordan Love's birthday, which is kind of cool. I think he's going to ball out. I think he's going to have – I'm not going to predict another 360-yard, 3-touchdown game. But, moving forward, it just needs to be week by week, stack those wins and stack those performances and stack those games where you don't have that boneheaded mistake. The only problem with Jordan Love has literally been that 1 or 2 throws a game. The rest of it has been great, but if he eliminates that 1 or 2 big mistakes that he's made throughout his career here as a starter, this is what you can expect from him. This is Jordan Love, as long as he can just limit the negative play. And of course, Moeglin touched on it perfectly. You need the offensive line to keep him upright. He's been under a lot of pressure this year. Hopefully health stays there on the line. It hasn't been great this year, but this is the Jordan Love that he's capable of being. This is the Jordan Love that the Packers thought he would be when they drafted him. And as long as he just eliminates those silly mistakes that he really shouldn't be making, it's not like he's, it's not like he's being forced to make those mistakes. Just cut him out. There's no need to force that ball into double covers. There's no need to float one down the middle of the field. Just keep playing the way he's playing. That's it. Just eliminate those 1 or 2 plays, and this is exactly what you can expect from Jordan Love.
Yep. I want to transition, and I think we talked about it a little bit last week. To to me, this game really highlighted the fact that the Packers made the right decision when it came to drafting Love when they did in the first round of that 2020 draft, despite the fact that Rodgers was still in his prime. He went on to win 2 more MVPs. And you can go all the way back to when Rodgers was drafted, and they did the same thing with him and Brett Favre. And clearly there's a plan, there's a model in place in Green Bay. Anthony, let's start with you, because you more than anybody really have seen the opposite of this, where there is no plan at quarterback. And I'd love to hear from your perspective. What is this? Is this something that you can expect to keep being recreated, or did the Packers somehow just luck into just 3 in a row, like out of some crazy, lightning strikes 3 times?
I would say the luck part of it is like, hey, you got 3 generational talents. That's like the only lucky part about it. The process of getting them is so sound, and it's hard, right? It is a hard decision. I'm sure you two, Ev, you were talking about it, felt like it was the teenage you watching Aaron Rodgers. I'm sure teenage you or 20, whatever you were, when it was time for Jordan Love, or they drafted Jordan Love, I'm sure both of you were like, what in the heck is this? And I'm sure the conversation was similar when they drafted Rodgers, and you're like looking at Brett Favre, you're like, wait, we still got the guy, we got the gunslinger back there. But when you string together 30 plus years of great quarterback play, I mean, Jordan Love is a spitting image. It feels like a spitting image, and it doesn't feel like it's statistically proven that he's a spitting image of Aaron Rodgers so far to this point in his career. It's amazing, and at some point it's not luck. It is sound operation. It is sound. It's just a good organization, right? They know, hey, it's probably better to cut ties maybe a year or two too early than a year or two too late. And they've done that, and they do it to guys that are prepared, ready to go. They're confident in these guys, and they come in and they show that they're next up. It's impressive stuff.
Yeah, I touched on it a couple episodes ago, I think. I mean, it's, when you give a young quarterback, instead of throwing him on the field and saying, hey, you're going to be our starter, we're not really ready for you, but get out there and try to make something happen. When you go back to Rodgers and Favre, actually, the funny thing is when Rodgers was drafted, I was begging the Packers to draft him. That's the guy I wanted. Not so much with Love. I can't take credit for that. But, when you give a young kid 3 years to learn behind an all-time legend, if they have the natural ability and you give them that extra mental side of the game, man, I mean, it's a recipe for success. You're certainly not guaranteed to do it. Is it something where the Packers thought that Jordan Love was going to be the next Aaron Rodgers? Probably not. I don't think anybody would have thought that Jordan Love would be this good, this fast. But it's a calculated risk because you have Aaron Rodgers in front of him. You don't have to move on to Jordan Love in a year or two. You get to pick when. And, they gave him 3 years. They obviously get to see him when we don't. And they liked what they were seeing. Rodgers was getting older. I still think Rodgers could have been, he could have led the Packers to some good success here over the last few years. But, at the same time, when you see a kid he's starting to catch up, he may not have been quite as good as Rodgers at that exact moment. But the Packers felt like, hey, he's ready. Let's see what we have, and let's go ahead and make this move. And truthfully, the Packers got a really good return for Rodgers at the time as well. But, man, yeah, I mean, the Packers front office, and they do this. It's not just in the first round that the Packers do this. I want to point this out. They take flyers on quarterbacks late in the draft, and they also acquire players like a Malik Willis. And, Malik Willis is obviously a kid that was drafted, I believe, in the 3rd round out of Liberty. And he went to Tennessee, where quarterbacks go to die. And, but from his draft footage, you could see the kid had the natural ability to play. Green Bay's like, okay, that kid's got it. If we need him to play, he's going to be ready to play. They trade for him. He's on the field in 2 weeks after being traded for, and he's winning football games. This isn't just blind luck. They do it more than you think. And Malik Willis is a prime example of that.
Yeah. It's that, sorry, just real quick. It's that old adage of like, don't ever go grocery shopping when you're hungry. It's kind of the same thing of like, don't ever shop for a quarterback when you need one. Shop when you have the luxury of not needing one. And the Packers have done it year after year. And I guess decade after decade, and from that perspective too.
Yeah. I mean, now that you bring that up, let's talk about some of the backups off just the top of my head. Matt Flynn was incredible for the Packers.
What's funny about the Flynn one too is like this also proves that the Packers organization is like elite, because correct me if I'm wrong, but it was awesome. The 1 year he like started in Green Bay, then he goes to Seattle, and like very middle of the road, maybe bottom half of the league when he got there.
And
I may be wrong
paid
in that,
too.
Yeah.
He got paid, and he was almost immediately replaced by Russell Wilson, who was a rookie that year. So, yeah, it just goes to show you, and Flynn is just a good example, but Malik Willis is a tremendous example. He came in and won a couple games last year for the Packers. They just know what they're doing when it comes to quarterbacks, man. And that's, I think in business, you can look and say there's organizational knowledge about X, Y, and Z. And, good businesses are able to take that knowledge and pass it down, through the generations. And clearly, going all the way back to Ron Wolf and, these legends, at least for me, in the early 90s, that they went out and traded for Favre. They saw something in him. Ted Thompson to make that move to draft Rodgers. It's just, there's a part of it, I think, that you just have to have the confidence in your system to know we're going to make this move. And the one thing that I find as a fan that makes me proud, at least, is nobody is bigger than the helmet, man. Brett Favre, eventually that they shipped him out. Aaron Rodgers, they shipped him out. In Love, he's going to get shipped out one day too. And it's just going to keep going on and on. And that's what you see with these good teams, I think, in the NFL, is they have a plan, they stick to the plan, and come hell or high water, that's just what it is, So let's kind of transition to topic 4 here, because I think we've done a good job breaking down the quarterback of it all. We talked about Tucker Kraft, and Moeglin, we've talked about this before. I think he's becoming one of the best tight ends in the game, if not the best tight end in the game after that. I'd love to hear what you think about his big performance.
Yeah, as good as it gets. And tight ends are, the old adage is that tight ends are, quarterback's best friend, especially young quarterbacks too. And, the difference a good tight end makes is hard to measure, because, when he can block and is willing in the run game, which Tucker Kraft is, and then has the ability to, like that first play or that first drive of the second half, make that, kind of circus-like catch. That was Jordan's, his mess up play, and he lobbed it in the air, got away with it, goes to Kraft, and he turns it into 60 yards or whatever that final number was. But when you have that kind of breakout ability, it's special. But the biggest place where tight ends stick out is in the red zone. You saw it with the one touchdown he had where he ran that little spray release slant where he got inside of they got man coverage. He worked his guy out to the outside, stuck his foot in the ground. Jordan put it right between the numbers, and he caught it and scored. You get down in the red area, where that field starts to shrink and those windows become really small. Having a great tight end makes all the difference. And he is absolutely in that tier 1 category with Kelsey, with Kittle, maybe older Kelsey or younger Kelsey, I should say. But with those guys, Laporta's up there too. Kraft is absolutely in that group.
Yeah, what makes Tucker Kraft so special, obviously you see his speed at the tight end position. You see his route running ability. You see his hands. You see his blocking. But, man, that kid, is there anybody that's, just is a Packer more than Tucker Kraft? He's from a small town. He's a hard worker. He just wants to get his nose dirty, man. He just wants to get in there and play football. After the game, he has a 7-catch, 143-yard, 2-touchdown performance. What does he say in the locker room? He comes in and says, "I love you guys. I play as hard as I do because I love you guys." That's exactly what you're looking for from a guy like Tucker Kraft. George Kittle's a great comparison for him. That's actually, that's who he reminds me of. I've heard some people say Gronk. I don't see that quite as much, but it's kind of funny. You go back to that draft and everybody was excited about Luke Musgrave. Man, how about Tucker Kraft, though? That kid is just, man, and I don't even think he's done. There's a lot of room for him to continue growing his game. We're just starting to see the tip of the iceberg. I can't wait to see what the future holds for Tucker.
Let's talk about kind of the overarching, positioning of this team right now. So they're 5-1-1. As we were talking about Kraft, the idea came in my head. And Anthony, we've talked about this on defense before, that the Packers kind of have a star player on each level of the defense. You've got Micah Parsons, Edgerrin Cooper, and then Xavier McKinney on the back end. I think the Packers also can say the same thing on offense. They've got Josh Jacobs at running back. Obviously, Jordan Love will hold down the quarterback position. You've got Tucker Kraft. I think between the Christian Watsons, Matthew Goldens, the Romeo Doubs. They've got a wide receiver conglomerate, in there, wide receiver one conglomerate, and then Zach Tom, we already mentioned him. He's a damn good tackle. So on both sides of the ball, this team has stars. I think they have, and I've said this many times over the past couple of weeks, they have the talent to be a Super Bowl team. Can they put it all together? I feel like we saw them put it together in a big spot against the Steelers. How do they move forward and keep up the momentum here?
Yeah, I think, Evan, you hit it right on the head. It's one game at a time for this group because you've seen the highest of the highs, right? The Steelers are one of the better teams, and maybe this tells you the state of the AFC, but the Steelers are one of the better teams in the AFC. They just dog walked them at home, on the road at night in prime time. Like, that kind of stuff doesn't happen in Pittsburgh, and it was a thorough domination there towards the end of that game. And you're like, oh yeah. This Packers team, when it clicks, they got the goods, man, because, that defense can be suffocating at times when the secondary's playing decent. They can present some challenges, and Micah Parsons, he had a couple, even pressures. The one that was funny was when he was like hunting Aaron Rodgers down, and Aaron could still move a bit. And Micah laid out to try to just deflect the ball, and they both shared a little chest bump or a fist bump or whatever afterwards. And it's okay, these guys have players at each level. It's just when it's not clicking, you can't slip up, right? And when it's all clicking, they can beat anybody in the league. When it's not clicking, you lose to the Browns, and it's wait, what? You can't have that up and down. And you're seeing 3 or 4 straight weeks here, outside of the defense giving up 40 points to the Cowboys, which, mind you, a lot of teams are going to do. That Cowboys offense is crazy. That you're seeing a really, really good trend and really critical. Andrew, we talked about at the start of the year. You felt like before that Browns game, a lot of them are reading the press clippings. Today, this one is a big one to hey, throw all that stuff out. As Nick Saban says, that's rat poison, right? Just keep focused on the next task at hand, and they're gonna continue to progress at this crazy rate.
Yeah, Evan, what do you think, man?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think as you're talking through the stars of the offense, I think. Actually, at wide receiver, I think Jaden Reed is probably this team's most talented wide receiver. Actually, myself, but he's not even on the field right now, so there's room to grow naturally when he comes back from injury as well. But looking at this team, even against Pittsburgh, as good of a win as it was a tale of two teams, and that's been the issue since week 2. Has been you come out and you're down 16-7, you missed 2 field goals, you look like you're headed for an ugly loss. So I guess I kind of push back against the idea that they put it all together in this game. They did it the second half, but you still had that 30 minutes of football where you're like, what in the world is happening? This could have easily gone the opposite direction. I'm not trying to be a pessimist here. It's serious as we start getting towards the end of the season and into the postseason. Those halves are going to beat you, and that's how you go home. So when this team plays to its full ability, it's without a doubt, in my opinion, one of the top 2 or 3 Super Bowl contenders in the NFL. When they play down the way they played in the first half, or the way they played against the Browns, or at times against the Cardinals, or at times against the Cowboys, you're more of a wild card team, and that's kind of your ceiling. So, it's on these guys to really come together, and you hear them, I think the last 2 weeks now, you've really heard them say, we need to put it all together and play complementary football for 60 minutes. That's the next step here. The state of the Packers, quite frankly, it's a good state, but it's not great yet. And in order to get there, it's just putting 60 minutes on the field. Don't come out slow. Don't come out with a 3 and out on offense right off the bat. It's little things that are stacking up to create these issues. They're fixable, and this team has what it takes to win a Super Bowl. I hope they put it all together, but a lot of that will come down on the floor, and it's up to him and the leaders on this team. Jordan Love, Xavier McKinney, those 2 guys in particular stand out to me, and Micah Parsons. Can they bring these guys together? Humble a couple guys. We started talking about going undefeated after 2 games. There's some things that probably need to be addressed with that, and some expectations that need to be brought down. But man, yeah, they're in a good spot. Just got to fix the little things.
How much of this comes down to coaching? You mentioned LaFleur, and Anthony, we'll start with you, then we'll go to Evan, and then we'll wrap things up here. I think he's a great coach. He's a good offensive mind. Sometimes I wonder, does this guy know how to get these dudes ready for these moments? What do you think?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is coaching, and a lot of it is learning how to handle this, right? Getting out to a 5-1-1 record and having, in these 2 months of football, you've had a lot of good experiences and a lot of learning experiences. And that's like the best part about an NFL season that's 17 games long, is like you can learn a lot of lessons, right? Whether it be bad stuff like the Cleveland game was, or the Cowboys game was, or, good lessons like, hey, like you said, Evan, bad first half, turn it around the second half against Pittsburgh. That's something you keep and you hold on to. Now the coaching part comes in is like, hey, don't start slow. Like, hey, don't read those press clippings. We're not going undefeated. Like, and that's all learned stuff. And he still is a young coach in this league. And that comes with it. So like, that's the exciting part, is this team's trending in the right direction in going into week 9. I don't even know how to, is it week 8, week 9? I don't even know anymore. Going into the middle part of the season. Yeah, going into the middle part of the season, they're trending. Now it's up to him to keep them focused, keep them on the task at hand. And Andrew, to answer the question long-windedly, yeah, it's a lot to do with coaching, those little things.
Evan, you've been pretty, you've been definitely a proponent of LaFleur needing to step up and get better in certain ways. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think, let's look at the last 3 years here. The Packers still happen to be, I believe, they're the youngest team in the NFL still, if not, top 3, I'm pretty sure. However, when you've got a team that starts 2-0 and you've got all this talent, the Packers have gone from being kind of that underdog the last 2 years with a new quarterback, young roster, and now you're the hunted. And in order to live up to the expectations, it takes that extra hour of preparation, those extra run-throughs at practice. You can't just keep coming in and surprising teams. That's not going to happen anymore. I think that did happen quite a bit over the last couple of years. Nobody thought the Packers were going to be a playoff team when Rodgers was traded. People overlooked them. That's how they won those games. And Jordan Love played well down the second half of the season there, and a lot of guys stepped up. But everybody overlooked the Packers. That's not happening this year. I think the crazy thing is the Packers are the ones doing this to themselves. And so is it coaching? Yes, it's partially coaching. Is it players coming out after 2 wins and saying we're going to go undefeated? Yeah, it's partially that. I think it's guys that have never been there before for the most part. There are a couple guys that have. That's truly one of my biggest concerns, is there's not a lot of veterans in that locker room that have been there and won it. In fact, off the top of my head, I can't think of a player who's won a Super Bowl on this roster. So I think it's everybody coming together. Is it LaFleur? Yeah, for sure. You've got to get your guys ready. You've got to have them prepared for the game from the opening snap. But, LaFleur can't control what some of these younger guys, some of their cockiness, or their overconfidence. Let me put it that way. He can't control that. But, man, you've got to figure out a way to put an end to those undefeated talks. You can't do it anymore. But put an end to the Super Bowl conversation, truthfully, from the team. There's nothing that matters except for Carolina. That's how Matt LaFleur needs to coach every single week moving forward. And I don't think he's done that to this point.
Yeah. Speaking of Carolina, do the Packers need to blow out the Panthers? That is our final topic. Initially, I said yes in my head, and then I looked at the Panthers and realized they beat they lost to the Bills 49. So, yes, I think the Packers should blow
You read that score wrong.
I read it wrong. I think this is a perfect opportunity to finally get that complete game. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, they should. I mean, that's the funny thing. We've been saying that for 3 games this year. They probably should have blown out Cleveland. They probably should have won fairly convincingly against Dallas. Probably should have beat Arizona a lot better than they did. Yeah, the answer is yes. This team should blow out Carolina. I mean, but again, it goes back to, are they going to come with that mindset of we are going to kill this team, or is it we're going to win the game? It is literally the mindset of this team. If they come in like they finished against Pittsburgh, this game's going to be a 30 to 40 point blowout. If they come in and they're just kind of like, oh, we're here to win, we know we're going to win, we're better. This is a trap game. This is Cleveland again, by the way. I want to put that this is the team's second chance to kind of right that ship and erase that one from their memory. I hope they're ready for it.
And, erasing that from your memory, I think, is a big one, because you come out and you look ready and you show up and you play the way you're capable of playing, and you put that on tape. Like, yes, great teams do what they're supposed to do against bad teams like this. Shut them out early, take care of your business and move it right along. That instills a level of confidence in you as well. Like, yeah, you're supposed to win, and you do it handily, and you just totally bully another NFL team. Like that gives you that fires you up, because then you can look back at a month's worth of football where you're like, bad start against Dallas, but we scored 40. Tough, hard-fought win against Arizona, which we probably should have beat better, but we didn't. And then you thump Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh, and then you finish it off a 4-game stretch with a dominating victory against Carolina, feeling really, really good heading into November. And that's right where you need to be as you're hitting that home stretch.
And let's not forget, they did beat the Cincinnati Bengals as well. And Joe Flacco, who is an elite quarterback, as we all know. I do want to just point out that, Anthony, I feel like you have a lot of experience trying to forget about the Cleveland Browns.
You keep bringing them back up, dude.
That's rough.
I spend a lot of my days. Mondays are hard. Sunday nights are fun because I'll cut on a movie or something to forget about football for a little bit. Then I'll get on Monday and it's like everything on Twitter is just how bad football is. And every show I listen to is like, oh my God, Browns suck. So this is very enjoyable to get on and talk about winning football. And I can live vicariously through you two specifically and Packers fans, even if it is for just 30-ish minutes a week.
That's awesome.
Hey, man, the bandwagon is open. I'm just saying.
Trust me, dude. Trust me. That's my NFC squad. Let's go. I can be what is it? I could be I'll jump on the bandwagon.
You're a cheesehead, man. You're a cheesehead.
I'll put the cheesehead on. Let's go.
I mean, on one side, he's a Shedeur Sanders ride or die guy, and on the other side, he's Packers cheesehead through and through. I love it.
Let's go.
We're going to get a Go Pack Go out of Anthony by the time this podcast
You'll get one. You'll definitely get one.
Well, let's call it a day here, guys. Really, it's been fun. I think this was a really fun week of coverage, just with the whole Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love. And I am excited to see as the calendar turns into November what this team can do. And Anthony, I think that's a good point. You want to stack good chunks of football together. It's not necessarily what you look like in week 3 against the Cleveland Browns. It's what you look like in November, December as the playoffs approach. So, Evan, Anthony, appreciate you guys so much, man. Thank you. As always, let's say it again to everybody who reads, gets on the comments and the community posts, and, keep following us, and really excited to have everybody aboard for what's been a cool journey so far. So, guys, thank you for being here. And with that, we'll talk to everybody next week.